continue that with you. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you a technique, and then I'm going to show you how to be able to do it. And then I'm going to break you up into small groups, 4 groups in total. Each group will have a different set of ayat. I invite you to be able to apply the technique of tadabbur, and then to present back to all of us so that we can benefit, inshallah, from your practice of reflection and pondering upon the Holy Quran. The technique I want to be able to talk to you about is under the broad title, that in one ayah or in 2 joining ayat, there is always an internal relationship between the first part and the second part. Let us say you're reading a verse, and sometimes the verse talks about 2 things. It talks about X, and then it turns its attention to Y. There is always a relationship between point X and point Y. Allah is talking about 2 things within an ayah, or 3 things within one ayah. These are not separate issues, even if they may be slightly disjointed or might appear to go in 2 different directions. The fact that Allah, who is perfect in speech, has put them in one ayah means that He wants to tell you 2 things and that there is a connection between them. Similarly, when there's 2 verses, one following after another, one preceding the other, there is also a relationship between what has been said in the preceding verse and in the subsequent verse. This is what we call, generally, we say there's something called siyaq. In the Arabic language, it's called siyaq al-ayah. The siyaq of the ayah, the sort of the overall context of what is being said, and the relationship between one part and the next part. What I want to do is to show you how that as you're reading the Quran and you think about a verse for yourself, you can actually see how one part is related to another and related to the next and related to the next in that sequence, in that internal correlation, either in one ayah or in 2 or in 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 ayat, and how easy it is for us to be able to figure out what God is trying to tell us with just a little bit of interrogation of the verse, a little bit of cajoling of the meaning and trying to make it come to mind. Then I'll split you off into 4 groups. So for example, we'll have group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. I'll give you some verses and try to read them, talk together, and do the particular task of trying to get the relationship between one part of the verse and the next part of the verse. Then we'll come back and present it. Have a look at the verses that I'm showing you. Surah An-Nazi'at, verses 37 to 41. First, we'll just read the verses together, and then I'll show you the example of the siyaq of the ayat, this internal context and correlation between one part and another. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. As for he who is taghi, tyrannical. So I'm giving you my translation. Of course, your translation might say something slightly different. What is on the screen might be slightly different, but we'll broadly be on the same page. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. As for he who is inordinate, who is taghi, who is tyrannical, وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا, and prefers the life of this world, فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى, then surely the hell is his abode. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى, and as for he who fears to stand in the presence of his Lord and forbids his soul from low desires, فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى, then surely the garden of Jannah, that is the abode that has been prescribed for him. Okay. At first glance, it's really simple, isn't it? Allah is not telling you something that you've probably not heard before. I don't imagine this is like new to anyone. But actually, when you begin to take time to think about the relationship between one verse and the next, or the first 2 and 3 verses and the subsequent 2 and 3 verses, actually a lot comes out. Let me show you, and we can see how the siyaq works, this internal coherence and context between the verses and between the sentences. Let us say, I came to you, it's madrasa, and I say to you, Adnan, give me a definition of what a taghi is. And you'll say, taghi is a tyrant. You say, no, I'm not looking for a translation of the word taghi. Give me a definition. Give me an example of what a taghi does, not just what me and you think. Let's get an objective answer from God Himself. It says that if the person does this, then you know that this is a sign of being a taghi. Yes. Yeah. MBS. So you and I, we're studying MBS. We're studying Joe Biden. I say to you, he's a taghi. You say, well, how is he a taghi? I say, okay, let's find how the Quran speaks about what is a taghi. Someone who's tyrannical. Adnan, he pulls out this ayah, or these few ayat. Excuse me. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى, as for the one who is taghi, وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. It's just a few words. Allah is giving you a context to the meaning of the word taghi. What definitions do you have? What do you have in your translations? Not for the word taghi. وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. Yeah. Now, you know, in the Arabic language, if I said to Ustad, so what does the word athara mean? What would it mean? Athara. Just, yeah, the root athara. Wa athara al-hayat ad-dunya. Athar, a mark. Sometimes we actually translate the word athara, footsteps. It means to leave a mark. Yeah? So, let's say you were walking in the mud, and you leave a footprint, you say those are your athar. Those are the imprints, the evidence that you did something, but you made an impression, a lasting impression, whereby what you did left an imprint on something else. Now, without any value, that could be positive and negative. If I say, I've left an imprint on your life, I hope it's a good imprint. But you also know that athara here is being given in the context of what? A taghi. Can you see? So immediately there is an internal relationship between the first verse and the second verse. Allah is saying, فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى, as for the one who is a taghi, well, who is that? آثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. He has left an imprint. Okay, he's left a mark. Is it a good mark? No, because it's a taghi. It's not a philanthropist. It's not someone, it doesn't say, as for the one who's really charitable, آثَرَ الدُّنْيَا. He's left an imprint. What would you say about the one who's a philanthropist, a charitable person, and he left an imprint on the world? So it's a good thing. He's built houses, he's built schools, he raised orphans. So immediately the context of the word آثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا is positive. But here the context, the siyaq of the ayah tells you the meaning of the word آثَرَ. What did he do? When we say he left an imprint, now what do you think it means? In what way? He scarred the earth. If I say you've walked on the mud, let's say it's a pristine garden. How many of you been to, I don't know, You know, there's a really nice garden outside Tropical World. You been to Tropical World here in Leeds? Yeah, it's a really nice garden, and then there's like this really nice little water, and there's a house. Yeah, what? It's not. I thought it's the root. The root athara, and then bubble fa'il athara. Yeah, mu'athara. So, if you were walking in a garden, and then you start crunching on the, just walking and running and jumping and squashing the beautiful flowers, we would say that you've done this mu'athara. You've left your imprint. You've left your impact on it. Imagine now at the level of a taghi. What is being said? At what level? At what level of damage does a taghi do? Destroying houses, destroying countries, starving people, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, long-term damage. You see? So immediately if I was to ask, I'd say, give me the definition of a taghi, not from Allah's perspective. You would say, فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. What does he do? آثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. He leaves this horrid, disastrous impact on humanity after him, or in his time. You understand? Can you see? You're breaking down the words. Now, obviously not everybody knows Arabic, so I've just helped it along a little bit. But I show you the internal coherence of the two verses. Before this, it just seems, what's a taghi? He just prefers dunya. But many people prefer dunya. Doesn't make them taghi, does it? No. Allah is not saying simply He preferred dunya over akhirah. Most people don't want to die. Most people do prefer, but that doesn't make him taghi. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى آثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. He left this horrible impact on life, on planet, on people. As such, فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. The next verse. For such a person, Jahannam is his abode. Makes sense. So now Adnan in class, he can tell me, as an example, very simple, a verse and a context to the meaning of taghi, and it's enough for us to be able to understand and put it in place and say, this person is taghi. MBS, look what he's done to Yemen. Joe Biden supplied another 12,000 bombs last month. Look at the massacre. 31,000 civilians dead in 3 months. There's no way to misunderstand it. طيب. Now if you're going to see the next verses, the sequence starts with the discussion of whom? Taghi. So either it's going to continue to have some relationship to a taghi, or some matter that can help us clarify the opposite of a taghi, right? Read the ayat with me. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. What does he do? آثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. Consequence, إِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Okay. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. But as for he who fears standing in front of his Lord on the Day of Judgment, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. There are two qualities here being mentioned. What are the two qualities? Ahsan, khawf, from standing in front of your Lord on the Day of Judgment, where accounting takes place. And what's the second quality? وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ. He restrains himself. He forbids his own self from his lowest desires, or from low desires. The consequence, فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Okay, so again, you'll say, oh yeah, ordinary. You fear Allah, you're going to hold yourself back from doing bad deeds. You get Jannah. Really simple. But again, when you start to connect the dots, if I ask again, Adnan, what are the qualities of a taghi? Can you see in the sequence? Taghi is someone who does athar al-hayat al-dunya. he has no fear of standing in front of his Lord. Because Allah says, as for the one who fears standing in front of his Lord, and as for the one who is going to restrain himself from his low desires taking over, then this person has Jannah. So if you were to put it in the context, one by one by one, the sequence starts with the word taghi. It doesn't just give one description or quality of a taghi. It helps you to understand other qualities. Where does this come from? He has no fear of standing in front of God, so he's free to do what he wants. If he thinks that there's no day of judgment, or that he doesn't fear standing in front of God, or let's say his theology says that he's a chosen person, or Jesus is going to take all his sins, he doesn't have any fear of standing in front of God. Jesus died on the cross so I can bomb 31,000 civilians. He doesn't have any khawf of maqam in front of his Rabb. And number two, he doesn't hold himself back, doesn't restrain from his desires. This is another quality of a taghi. Taghi isn't only someone who is king. You can be tyrannical in your own home. You can be a tyrant inside your own house to your own family. What happens? A person who doesn't restrain himself from his anger or from his desire, or whatever it may be, he can potentially overrun himself and become a taghi in his own house. So Allah says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. What does he not have? خَوْفْ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. And he doesn't do naha of his own nafs. Three qualities. But if you want to make sure that you don't ever become taghi, these are the three things that you have to avoid. Not causing this decimation on the face of the planet, fearing standing in front of your Lord, and being able to restrain yourself. What's the outcome? فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Can you see? There's an internal coherence from one verse to another, and we link the meaning of one to another. One to another. What do? We explained verse 37 by verse 38. So what is the meaning of a taghi? Athar al-hayat dunya. And as for the one who does the opposite of what the taghi does, he fears standing in front of his Lord, and he holds himself, restrains himself. فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Tell me, I know I've made it easy, but is it difficult or is it easy for us? From the way we worked it out, it's easy. It's easy, inshallah. It's sahal, inshallah, easy. Okay? So I'm going to give you, each group, one set of verses. And you're going to do the same thing. What I want from you is to be able to read the verse, or the two verses, and I want you to be able to find internal coherence between point A and point B. Why would Allah say this here, and then immediately jump to this? What's going on that Allah wants you to know the relationship between A and B? And then we'll talk about it together, inshallah. Okay? So, I want you all to have a look at the verses and then... Okay, Group A. From Zain, can I move you this side? Doc, can I move you this side? Do you mind if I move you this side? That's all right? Okay, so Group 1, chapter 17, verse 82. Adnan, you're on this team. It's not teams. Chapter 17, verse 82. So if you want to have a look at the verse now, you can. I'll just explain the task. Chapter 17, Surah Al-Isra, verse 82. It's just for this group. They'll come and present back in a few minutes, inshallah. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. We reveal of the Quran that which is a healing and a mercy for believers, and it adds only to perdition to the unjust. What is the relationship between the first part of the verse, and then you can see there's a little lam. Can you see? وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ لِلْلَامِ. So you're supposed to carry on reading. وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. What is the relationship between the first part and the second part? Inshallah. Okay? Not too difficult for you. Second group here for the brothers. Chapter 9, verse 47, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 47. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. لو خرجوا فيكم ما زادوكم إلا خبالا ولا أوضعوا خلالكم يبغونكم الفتنة. First part of the verse. وفيكم سماعون لهم والله عليم بالظالمين. Had they, now there were certain hypocrites who always wanted to avoid war or causing trouble when the Prophet wanted to go to war and defend Medina al-Munawwara. Had they, the hypocrites, gone forth with you, Ya Rasulullah, they would not have added to you and your party and your army anything other than corruption. And they would certainly have hurried amongst you to sow sedition amongst you. First part. وَفِيكُمْ سَمَّعُونَ لَهُمْ. And amongst you, there are those who listen for their sake, for the sake of that group, that if they go with you, they would only cause problems for you. So look, there's one group, if they go with you to the battlefield, they'll only cause you problems. And there are those who are amongst you already, Ya Rasulullah. All they do is listen for that group, for the sake of trying to talk to. Ahsant. What is the relationship between the first part and the second part? What is God trying to tell the Prophet? What is God trying to tell you today? Third verse. Should we have Ruhina Auntie? Would you like to join this? It's 4 and 4. Yeah? Chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 90 and 91. Surah Al-Baqarah, 90, 91. You got one. So, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 91. This is talking about Banu Israel. You guys have it? بِئْسَ مَا اشْتَرَوْا بِهِ أَنفُسَهُمْ. Evil is that which they have sold their souls for. Yeah, this is talking about Banu Israel. Evil is that which they have sold their souls for. That they should deny that which Allah has revealed. Why did they deny what God has revealed? Out of envy that Allah would dare send His grace to servants whom He pleases. This is Allah talking about Banu Israel and the Jews. They deny revelation. Why? Because they envy that revelation has gone to someone else other than them. Prophets have gone to other than them. Allah says. This is an incredible ayah explaining the psychology of the Jews. And yukaffiru, they do kufr, bima anzal Allah baghyan, and yunazzil Allahu min fadlihi ala ma yasha' min ibadihi. They hate others have received revelation and others have different prophets. فَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ عَلَى غَضَبٍ. So they become deserving of the wrath of Allah. So what's the first part? This is the first ayah related to the second ayah, 91. When it is said to them, believe, they say, we only believe that which has been revealed to us. And they deny what is beside it, while the truth verifying what they actually have. Say to them, why did you kill Allah's prophets if you were really believers? What is the relationship between the first part of the verse, the first verse and the second verse? Last one. Please open your Qur'ans to chapter 10, verse 71. Surah Yunus, verse 71. You have it? Yeah? وَاتْلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ نُوحٍ. Recite to them the story of Nuh. He said to his people, O my people, if my maqami, my position, my stance is kabura alaykum, it's so difficult for you, وَتَذْكِيرِ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ, and my bringing up the communications, the signs of Allah is difficult for you, what should you do? فَأَجْمِعُوا أَمْرَكُمْ وَشُرَكَاءَكُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَكُنْ أَمْرَكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ غُمَّةً. So I'll give you a good translation of this. Relate to them the story of Noah. He said to his people, "O my people, if my presence and my reminders are unbearable for you, devise a plot with your gods and don't even be secret about what you plot. Carry it out without delay." And then you can see in the middle of the verse, he says, "Know that I've put my trust in Allah." Imagine Nuh is standing in front of you and he says these words, "If my stance is so unbearable for you, then go ahead and do your worst. You, your gods, your idols, your families, your friends, do what you want. I put my trust in Allah." What is the relationship between him saying, if this is really unbearable for you, do your worst, and I put my trust in Allah? Three elements to the verse. What's the relationship between each of the three parts? So we'll give everyone 5 minutes, and then we'll ask everyone to present. What's the name?
what is the are we saying that the Quran comes down to both people but all affect both people?
Regardless of what
Those who are Mu'mineen, the link is that for those who are Mu'min, it's a mercy and a shifa, door blameless. But not for those who are oppressed. For them, it's actually the opposite. It's more loss. So Quran is Quran. But it's
Okay, 2 minutes left, and then you can appoint someone to present to everyone, inshallah.
oppressed is actually going to be more loss. It's the same tablet, and you can only get the verse that says that those tablets. Same tablet,
that's why you keep prescribing it. That's why you keep prescribing. That's why you keep prescribing. Allah is alright. Yeah, he works with his son. His son was in, his younger son was in one of the competition under the carpet, and he won the competition for being the best child in construction. So he does designs kitchens and things like that. Yeah. Yeah. His son's back. Has he got his sons? Oh yeah. Sometimes he has. Yeah.
All right, 1 minute left. All right, thank you very much, everybody. How did you find that? It's okay? We'll find out soon. Yes, indeed. All right, let's all gather together, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa Group 1, remind us, you were in chapter 17, Surah Al-Isra. If everyone can bring up the verse, we can all look at it together. Chapter 17, verse number 82. 1782. Adnan's going to kindly bring it up on the screens as well. So this verse speaks about the Quran coming to two different sets of groups. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. So what did you guys take from specifically, the relationship or what God is saying between one part of the verse and the next? Nazir, you're the spokesperson, I think.
So we said that the Quran will go to the believers in will be like a healing and a cure for ailments and mercy to the believers.
Can't hear you, I'm so sorry. You need to speak louder.
But the same Quran that will be revealed to those who are zalim, to those who are wrong, it will, although it's the same Quran, it will increase in their loss.
Ahsant. So, the relationship, what God is saying is, it's the same Quran that's being revealed. When the Quran is revealed to whom? The mu'mineen, it becomes what qualities? Shifa'un wa rahmah. So it becomes a healing and a mercy to them. But for the zalimeen, it becomes bigger loss. So they're already in a loss because they are zalimeen. Yazidu, wala yazidu. It doesn't add anything illa khasara, except loss. So, yeah, or Muawiyah, or yes, indeed, or others. So think about this. It's the same. What God is saying between the relationship between the first part of the verse and the second part is, as you said, it's the same Quran being revealed. It's the same words, it's the same meaning, but it affects two different people or two groups of people differently. Isn't that interesting? Tell me, does it talk about believers and non-believers? What does it say?
It talks about believers
And
wrongdoers.
wrongdoers.
So basically, the example we gave was like Saddam. Saddam claimed that he was a Muslim, but yet his actions or wrongdoers.
Yes.
Like
So the zalim he can be Muslim. The zalim, Allah doesn't say وَلَا يَزِيدُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. He doesn't say that. He says the zalim. So the one who is zalim, now remember, if I asked Adnan, what is the definition of zalim? Not the translation, the definition, you'll have to find me verses, like we did with being taghi. It doesn't add to the zalim except loss. It's very interesting. So you can be Muslim and zalim, and the Quran actually makes you a worse person, actually furthers your loss. So you can see here the relationship between one part of the verse and the next part. Very simple. Well done. Thank you very much. That's exactly what we were hoping for. Group 2. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Let's see if you can top that. What verse were you on?
9.
Please open your Qur'ans to chapter 9, October, verse 47. Again, it's not too difficult, I hope. Okay, so I'll just remind you of all the verse and the meaning, basic meaning, and then you can tell us what you came across with. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. There were people who were munafiqeen, and they did everything they could do to avoid being on the battlefield with the Prophet, even going with the Prophet. So for the Prophet, that might have been tough. His job is to rally the troops. Allah says to him in this verse, don't worry. If they had gone with you to the battlefield, they would have done nothing but add corruption. لَوْ خَرَجُوا فِيكُمْ. If they had left Medina with you, مَا زَادُوكُمْ إِلَّا خَبَالًا. They would not have added anything to you except corruption. Khabala, nowadays, mutakhabbala in Arabic, it's a very slang word for someone who is stupid. They don't add anything to you but problems, stupidity, nonsense, corruption, difficulty. So basically, sometimes it's better that they don't go with you. وَلَا أَوْذَعُوا خِلَالَكُمْ يَبْغُونَكُمُ الْفِتْنَةِ. And they would have certainly hurried. Like if they are there with you, they would have gone out of their way to do what? Cause fitna. So what type of fitna would they have done? I don't think we're going to win this battle. Last time we won it, this time they're going to come with 10,000 more troops. We're going to get defeated. They'll go around whispering, causing sedition inside the camp. That's the first part of the verse. Second part of the verse. وَفِيكُمْ سَمَّعُونَ لَهُمْ. And amongst you are those that listen out for them. Go ahead.
So, like the link between the two, ours was the
Yep.
So, yeah.
Agreed? Agreed? Sincerity? What is God saying to the Prophet? That's the first group. You're better off without them. And the second group? Negatively. They don't do anything but bring negativity to your group. It's sometimes better that they didn't come with you to the battlefield.
And also an indication that just because they might be joining you in greater numbers, it's not going to benefit you.
Even the numbers is not going to benefit you. Right? Every week, Tariq, Uncle Ustad goes to the protest, right? But there are others who will go there, and they might cause just more harm than good. As an example, they'll be swearing about Jews and throwing stones at the police. As an example, it's better that they didn't go with you because they will actually cause more problems. By? Like Genghis Khan. There were some people who made problems for Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now, what's the second part of the verse? وَفِيكُمْ, and amongst you, Ya Rasulullah, سَمَّعُونَ لَهُمْ. There are some people that are in your group, and they're trying to help them. They're listening to what's going on. For whom? The first group. The ones that didn't come, the ones that would have caused you problem. So inside the demonstration in Leeds, there are some people who are there. But whatever's going on, they're actually thinking about whom? The ones that didn't come to the protest. They want to do what? Send back information. Send videos that might support their argument. The first group was, listen, if they had come to the protest, they would have said they would have caused hassles for you. But there's a group who are amongst you, Ya Rasulullah, who are on their side. What is the relationship? What is God telling the Prophet? Be careful of two different types of munafiqeen. One group is going to be staying back in Medina. And there's another group of munafiqeen who are what? Within your camp. As the general of the army, the Prophet has to take care of both groups. So when you speak, Ya Rasulullah, be careful, because there are some people who are amongst there, they're doing what? Samma'un lahum, for them, to try to help them out. So what's the relationship here? What does God want from the Prophet, from the mu'mineen to be aware of? And then what happens? What should he do with that information? Wow, the Prophet never did that to the munafiqeen. Yeah. Otherwise the munafiqeen wouldn't have been there at the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam. But they were. So what is the Prophet telling them? What is Allah telling the Prophet here? Relationship between the first part of the verse and the second part of the verse. What's going on?
Careful of them, so you don't share your secrets and what your policy or what your tactics are.
Be very careful. This group who have not come, they're not on your side. If you share your tactics, your secrets too openly, too brazenly, this group that even come with you will send things back to the group that haven't come. And what will happen? Weakness will enter into you. Potential loss will happen into you. Look, how does Allah conclude the verse? Wallahu alimun bil-zalimeen. Allah knows who the unjust are. Allah is... Now, imagine, you've got the Prophet being addressed. Indirectly, the munafiqeen are being described. And the mu'mineen, the true mu'mineen, are also being told, be wary. Because even if you guys speak, be careful of whom is amongst you. Because they're going to be taking the back to them. Can you see? Now we understand what the Prophet had to deal with. Now we understand what was going on. Just by linking the first part of the verse to the second part of the verse. This is the siyaq of the ayah, the internal coherence, one part and the other. Ahsantum. Thank you. Sisters, what was your verse? chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 90 and 91. Please, everyone, open your Qur'ans, just have a follow along. So, just to explain the verse very quickly, Allah is talking about Banu Israel and explaining excuse me, and explaining why they disbelieve in what comes to them. بِئْسَ مَا اشْتَرَوْا بِهِ أَنفُسَهُمْ. You know, bi'sa, it's such a harsh word in Arabic. Like, curse. Like, damn. Evil is that which they have sold their souls for. What do? أَن يَكْفُرُوا بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ. They rejected that which Allah revealed. Why? This is the key part. بَغْيًا. Out of envy and hatred. أَن يُنَزِّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ عَلَى مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. The Jews hated that someone else could receive revelation. That there's another prophet and that there's revelation that doesn't come to them. So tell me, which prophets didn't come to them? Ahsant. So Isa alayhi salam was from amongst Banu Israel. And he called Banu Israel. Which prophet didn't go to them? Those from the line of Ismail. There's something internally in them. They think because they are chosen, all revelation, all prophets should go to them. And if anything happens to go outside of that, or they think it's outside of that, they have baghyan ala ma yasha'u min ibadi. Okay. Next part of the verse. فَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ عَلَى غَضَبٍ. This has made them deserving of wrath upon wrath. وَلِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. Okay, that's the first verse, right? They have envy and hatred for revelation and prophets that doesn't come to them. How does this relate to the second part, the second verse? Verse 91. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا. And it said to them, believe. بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ. By what Allah has revealed. They respond. قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُوا بِمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْنَا. We believe in what has been sent to us. وَيَكْفُرُونَ بِمَا وَرَاءَهُ. We deny whatever else has come. Next part of the verse. هُوَ الْحَقُّ مُصَدِّقٌ لِمَا مَعَهُمْ. This is actually verifying what they have. قُلْ. Say to them, if you're really believers, فَلِمَا تَقْتُلُونَ أَنْبِيَاءَ اللَّهِ. Why would you kill the prophets of Allah? What is the relationship between verse 90 and 91? Yep. Yeah, ahsant. So because they have this baghi, this hatred, envy for others, this envy was strong enough to actually allow them to kill prophets of God. You know, we often ask, how could someone kill a prophet of God? How could someone kill Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? This is the perfect man. Like, this is such a beautiful hearted, like someone comes to you and says, who is the most perfect human being on earth? And that guy is in front of you and he just does everything so beautiful. You say, it's irrational. How can you kill such a beautiful human being? This verse is explaining the psyche of what's going on. They used to have hatred for someone else who received revelation. Why? Because they think that they are the chosen people of God. Everything should come to them. So Allah responds to them and He quotes them. When it said to them, believe, قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُوا بِمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْنَا. We believe what's been revealed to us. But we don't believe in what has been revealed to anyone else. Say to them, فَلِمَا تَقْتَلُونَ أَنْبِيَاءَ اللَّهِ مِنْ قَبْلٍ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Why did you kill Allah's prophets even before, if you were truly believers? So Allah is giving us an example of what lies within in order to make them act out so badly. This is the relationship between verse 90 and 91. Ahsant. And the last one? What was your chapter and verse? Surah Yunus, chapter 10, everybody? Verse 71, thank you. Okay, we have three parts to this verse. وَاتْلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ نُوحٍ. Recite to them the story of Nuh. So Allah is telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, talk about what happened with Nuh. Describe Nuh alayhi salam's conversations. إِذْ قَالَ لِقَوْمِهِ. When Nuh alayhi salam said to his community, يَا قَوْمِ إِنْ كَانَ كَبُرَ عَلَيْكُمْ مَقَامِي وَتَذْكِيرِي. If my stance and my bringing to mind the ayat of Allah is so hated by you, فَاجْمِعُوا أَمْرَكُمْ وَشُرَكَاءَكُمْ. Do your worst. Get your gods and your plans and do whatever you want against me. In fact, لَا يَكُنْ أَمْرَكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ غُمَّةً. Don't even let it be a quiet thing. Don't let it be hidden that you guys are going to do something secretly to me. You're going to stab me in the back. Be completely open about it. Go ahead. And then in the middle of the verse, فَعَلَى اللَّهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ. Upon Allah do I rely. Three parts to the verse. If you really hate what I've brought, it's too much for you to bear. Do your worst. Upon Allah do I rely. What do you think?
We said that essentially those of you that don't accept, what he's saying is that those of you that don't accept it, like you said, and what I'm teaching you of this message, I don't care, you can do what you want, I trust in God and I have full faith in him, I will continue to spread the message. We thought, bringing that into current life, it's like the Palestinian people, and they're sort of saying that we are where we are, we're not going to move, we have full faith in our position, we rely on God, do your worst, we're going to stay steadfast in our position. And for us, we should, we're going to, as long as we know that we're on the right path, we should remain steadfast despite any obstacles or hardships that befall us, and put our trust in God and know that He's got our back.
Ahsant.
Years it took him just to accomplish what
Yeah.
task they had to do, and he saw lots and lots and lots of setbacks. So obviously, the same thing happens to us.
And in that process, he's lost his child,
Yeah.
but he accomplished what he set out to do. So he did have severe loss to himself or hardship to himself, but he remained on his
Ahsant.
Even his family was against his wife and child.
Yep.
But he accomplished what was.
Ahsant. Have a look at what he said at the very end of the. It's like a taunt. He's being provocative, right? He says, "Do what you want. Don't let the matter alaykum ghumma. Thumma qdhu ilayya. Execute the plan that you've made, whatever you decide to do. Wala tunzirun, and give me no respite. Like, don't wait. Can you imagine, just for a second, genuinely? Imagine a prophet of God says, I'm ready. Bring your gods, bring your army, bring your family members, and don't even just, don't do it quietly. Tell me what you're going to do. And announce that you're going to kill me. And then don't hesitate, go and do it. Don't leave me any respite. Chase me out of the town. Do what you want. That's as provocative as you can possibly get. Fair? Where else do you see a prophet saying something like that? Does Musa say this? Does Ibrahim say this? Does Isa say this? Does Rasulullah say this? This is as provocative language you can get in front of your own community. He precedes it by saying, وَتَوَكَّلْتُ, or فَعَلَى اللَّهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ. Upon Allah I fully rely.
Because he tried to make the body into such a a long time, but they used to damage it when he was doing the war.
They would damage his safina, they would break his boat, they would come and laugh at him. He's saying, do your worst. So what is the relationship? It's an obvious one. What's the relationship between saying, I have full trust in God, do what you want?
God's got my back.
God's got my back. Even if you do what you want, you kill me, you chop me into pieces, God's got my back. And even if you can't chop me into pieces, God's still got my back. It's fine. Do what you want. Do your worst. In my language, do your worst. That's an incredible thing for someone to say. Right? Now, if you get into you get in some road rage, and then you pull over and then you don't quote this verse to him. Do what you want. God's got my back. That's not how it works. Yeah? We're talking about divine matters. Yeah? Now go back to the first part. In kana kaburu alaykum. If it's so difficult for you, maqami, my stance, wa tadhkiri, and my bringing up God, then do whatever you want. It's not personal. He's talking about my stance in deen. If my warning you and my telling you that there is God and your shirk is this bad and the punishment of God is going to come, it's not a personal thing. My religious maqami, my religious stance, wa tadhkiri, and my reminding you of the ayat of Allah is so difficult for you, then do what you want. Again, see the relationship between one part and the other. I really like what you said, actually. I hadn't thought about it in the context of Palestine. Palestinians will say, do your worst, all right. What's the worst you can do to us? They'll kill us. All right, fine, Jannah. Quite interesting, isn't it? And what's all they can say? فَعَلَى اللَّهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ. We believe in Allah, we're protected by Him, khalas. Very interesting. So sometimes you say, how can a people have such trust and reliance in God? It's in almost 100 days, 31,000 civilians dead, blah, 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 blah. What makes them say it? Well, Nuh alayhi salam said it. And as you said, they did whatever they could, they broke his safina, they attacked him. In the end, what happened? Flood took them. This is an FYI. October 7th was called Tufan Al-Aqsa, the flood of Al-Aqsa. This is an FYI. Thank you very much. Can you see? So the point of this exercise tonight was, whenever you read a verse of the Quran, or 2 verses or 3 verses, try to break it down a little bit for yourself, make it easier. Understand what's being said in this part of the verse, understand what's being said in this part, link it together, and you will be able to establish a deeper meaning for yourselves. Any questions? No homework. But next time you read the Quran, inshallah, try to practice this for yourself. Please raise your hands, join me in dua. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the appearance of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, to allow us to be alongside him at all times in our life and in our death. And we ask Ya Allah to grant us opportunity to understand the Quran and make use of the Quran better. And Ya Allah, grant victory to all those people who are on the path of truth and justice. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Sorry, duty, the one. Your turn.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أزور سيدي ومولاي ومعتمدي ورجائي وذخري وذخيرتي في دنياي وآخرتي مولاي أبا عبد الله الحسين عليه الصلاة والتسليم، أصالة عن نفسي ونيابة عن والدي ووالدي